Good morning and welcome to our Good Friday service. Reading from Mark chapter 15. Very early in the morning, the chief priests, with the elders, the teachers of the law, and the whole Sanhedrin made their plans. So they bound Jesus, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate. "Are you the king of the Jews?" asked Pilate. "You have said so," Jesus replied. The chief priests accused him of many things. So again Pilate asked him, "Aren't you going to answer? See how many things they are accusing you of." But Jesus made no reply, and Pilate was amazed. Now it was the custom at the festival to release a prisoner whom the people requested. A man named Barabbas was in prison with the insurrectionists who had committed murder in the uprising. The crowd came up and asked Pilate to do for them what he usually did. "Do you want me to release to you the king of the Jews?" asked Pilate, knowing that it was out of self-interest that the chief priests had handed Jesus over to him. But the chief priests stirred up the crowd to have Pilate release Barabbas instead. "What shall I do then with the one you call the king of the Jews?" Pilate asked them. "Crucify him," they shouted. "Why? What crime has he committed?" asked Pilate. But they shouted all the louder, "Crucify him." Wanting to satisfy the crowd, Pilate released Barabbas to them. He had Jesus flogged and handed him over to be crucified. The soldiers led Jesus away to the palace, that is, the praetorium, and called together the whole company of soldiers. They put a purple robe on him, then twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on him. And they began to call out to him, "Hail, King of the Jews!" Again they struck him on the head with a staff and spit on him. Falling on their knees, they paid homage to him. And when they had mocked him, they took off the purple robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him out to crucify him. Have you seen the Shawshank Redemption? Andy DeFrancis is falsely in prison for murdering his wife. All the inmates tell him that they're incarcerated for a crime they didn't commit. But Andy is the only one innocent there. Today we see the trial of Jesus. We see that the innocent one is accused, the innocent one is sentenced, the guilty are set free, and the innocent one is punished. So the innocent one is accused. Jesus was arrested by the Jewish religious leaders and tried in their religious court. Because they wanted him dead, they sent him to the Roman governor, Pilate. He had the authority to put Jesus to death. The religious leaders tell Pilate that Jesus claims to be the king of the Jews. Jesus is a threat to the Roman rule. Jesus stands innocent before the Roman judge. The one who had done no wrong hears lies spoken of him in court. The innocent one is accused, but makes no plea. Now it was the custom at the feast to release a prisoner whom the people requested. A man named Barabbas was in prison with the insurrectionists who committed murder in the uprising. The crowd came up and asked Pilate to do for them what he usually did. "Do you want me to release to you the king of the Jews?" asked Pilate, knowing it was out of envy that the chief priest handed Jesus over to him. But the chief priest stirred up the crowd to have Pilate release Barabbas instead. So this is unjust. Jesus is accused for something he didn't do. The religious leaders didn't want Jesus as their king. Instead, they envied Jesus. They wanted Jesus to be dead, and they wanted for themselves fame, power, authority, kingship. So they falsely accused him. So the innocent one was sentenced. Now, was Pilate any better than the Jewish religious leaders? No, he was no better. "What shall I do then with the one you call the king of the Jews?" Pilate asked them. "Crucify them." "Crucify him," they shouted. "Why? What crime has he committed?" asked Pilate. But they shouted all the louder, "Crucify him." Wanting to satisfy the crowd, Pilate released Barabbas to them. He had Jesus flogged and handed him over to be crucified. Well, Pilate didn't care about the truth. He only cared about his own skin. He avoided conflict. He'd rather convict an innocent man than cause trouble for himself. Well, the guilty are set free. Barabbas was seen by some as a freedom fighter, fighting against Roman rule, and yet he was guilty of death, and he was guilty of insurrection, and so he deserved, in terms of the law at that time, death. Well, he was therefore on death row, waiting to be executed. As the Americans say, he was dead man walking. And yet he goes free. Why does he go free? Well, there is an exchange. Jesus, the innocent one, is sent to the cross. Barabbas, the guilty one, goes free. This is the same exchange that is offered to us. Isaiah 53:6 says this, "We all like sheep have gone astray, each of us gone to his own way, but the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all." Isaiah says we are all like sheep. Now, sheep are not particularly intelligent creatures. They are easily lost. And we too are easily lost. We go our own way and not God's way. Now, God is just and right to condemn us, but because God is loving, he offers us a way out, someone else who will pay the penalty for us. The guilty can go free, but the innocent one is punished. Jesus, the innocent one, was flogged. Jesus, the innocent one, was crowned with thorns and dressed in a purple robe. The crown of lengthy thorns was pressed into his head, as onlookers said, "Hail, King of the Jews." Jesus, the innocent one, was struck again and again with a staff and spat upon. Jesus, the innocent one, was stripped of the purple robe, tearing off half-healed wounds. Jesus, the innocent one, was then sent out to be crucified. He was nailed to a cross of wood. There he took the punishment that we deserved. He bore the wrath of God for you and me. This is good news, if he rose from the dead. We turn to prayer. Lighten our darkness, we beseech thee, O Lord, and by thy great mercy, defend us from all perils and dangers of this night, for the love of thine only Son, our Saviour, Jesus Christ. Amen.